black men around the country. This ain't no post bashing um, you or nothing like that. I ain't even on that kind of time. But I seen this clip the other day when Kamala sat down with NABJ. Hope I got them letters right. And she said something. I had somebody to find me this clip. I just want to play it real quick.
It's very important to not operate from the assumption that black men are in anybody's pocket. Black men are like any other voting group. You got to earn their vote. So I'm working to earn the vote, not assuming I'm going to have it because I am black, but because the policies and the perspectives I have understands what we must do to recognize the needs of all communities. And I
to all the black men around the country, this ain't. She specifically said, when it comes to the black male vote, I gotta earn it. I gotta earn. I don't want y'all to give me nothing. I got to earn y'all vote. And it made me think about it. I said, man, when was the last time you even heard 45 say anything about black anything? Black men, black women, black anything. Besides trying to get everybody to hate the black Haitians. And it made me say what I'm about to say now. Man, regardless of what y'all do, black men, on November the 5th, all I'm saying to you is do something. Whatever you do something. Trump, he's not even asking black and brown men to even vote for him. He's not even, it's not even part of his campaign speech. It ain't a part of nothing. And I'm quite sure right now he'll take whatever vote he can get, especially with trailing in certain polls and the race being so tight. But I thought that, because he's asking for plenty of other people's votes out here. He's asking for farmers' votes and law enforcement and union work. Like, he's trying to get other people's vote. Bitcoin and everybody else. But he's not even asking the black and brown men to even, he's not even that. I ain't talking about calling into a barbershop where he finds it mind-blowing, even on that call, that he can't even believe y'all even considering him.
I'm a 56-year-old rural gun-owning white guy. If Kamala Harris thinks I'll vote for her, she's right. Just a little bit ago, my brother sent me a picture. Had a caption on it that said, "Why don't pictures like this trend on social media?" Well, I had to respond to my brother and tell him because it was a stupid frickin' picture. Not exactly the word I used. Picture in question had some guy standing in front of what looked like a courthouse in small town America. Guy was wearing battle fatigues and a tactical vest with nothing in it. My guess, he's never been within 100 yards of a recruiting office. He was holding a big sign that said "Vets Before Illegals." I told my brother that he's just propagating a lie started by Donald Trump and pushed by his Republican minions. That lie being that we're spending money on undocumented immigrants that could be spent on veterans. The reason it's a lie is because the U.S. Constitution requires that all spending bills originate in the U.S. House of Representatives. Does Biden control the House of Representatives? No. Do the Democrats control the House of Representatives? No. The House of Representatives is controlled by the Republican Party. The Republican Party has a rule. It's called the Hastert Rule. It was written by Denny Hastert way back when he was the Speaker of the House. It says that no bill shall come to the floor of the House unless a Republican majority approves it. Well, side note, Denny Hastert went to prison for molesting young boys. Anyway, the fact that we're spending money somewhere that the Republicans think should be spent on veterans, well, it's their fault. because they're the ones that have to write the spending bills to tell us where to spend the money. This House, this particular Congress, has been the least productive, most irresponsible, maybe in the history of our country. They don't pass budget bills, they pass continuing resolutions time after time after time. And it's really, really hard. They have to keep threatening to shut down the government because people like Lauren Boebert, they want to shut down the government. They're famous for it. She can't read a bill. Maybe that's why she wants to not vote on one, because she can't read it. Anyway, I'm sorry. Point is, if there's money being spent somewhere and it's not being spent where we want it to be spent, it's the Republicans' fault, as long as they control the House. And that brings another great reason to vote all blue. Because the last time we ever got something really significant done, the Democrats controlled the White House, the House, and the Senate. Go back and look through history. Every time something substantive that helps the American people gets passed, the White House, the House, and the Senate are all controlled by Democrats. They're into the rant. Good day.
Welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. That guy was just, hey, well delivered. Just very, very serious, unbothered, and well delivered. Oprah and Kamala Harris got together last night. Very emotional conversation, if you will. A lot of people watched as Oprah comes back into the spotlight. She doesn't necessarily endorse, they say. She's like a independent, but apparently she is endorsing now. So, and that is the vice president. David Youngblood said that was spectacular. Mike V says Democrats govern, Republicans obstruct. And of course, the Orange G says Trump is about to go full WASP. He said if he loses, it will be the Jews' fault. Trump said that last night in North Carolina. Yeah, he did say that last night in North Carolina. Yeah, he says things without any fear, anything. But what do we have here, Greer? Okay. That one got me. But folks, a lot going on. We have so much going on. The NAACP is urgently calling on Missouri Governor Mike Parson to stop the execution of Marcellus Williams, a black man who's been on death row for years, maintaining his innocence. It's a really, really compelling story there. And the NAACP and Representative Corey Bush, are working overtime to try and get this execution halted. And it's execution day because another death row story just days before inmate Freddie Owens is set to die by lethal injection in South Carolina. The friend whose testimony helped send him to death row is saying that he lied to save himself from the death chamber. We're going to talk about those two death row cases this morning. The Department of Justice has opened a civil rights investigation into Mississippi Sheriff's Department, where the Goon Squad, y'all remember the Goon Squad, operated. We'll have more on that this morning. And Stevie Wonder has announced that he's bringing a message of joy over anger this fall with a new tour ahead of the November elections. We're going to tell you about that as well. But first, speaking of North Carolina, and I know the RNG Power 96 was all over this one. I'm a black Nazi. North Carolina Republican nominee for governor made that comment and dozens of other disturbing comments on a pornographic website. Yeah, Mark Robinson we're talking about. Uh, the the black MAGA gubernatorial hopeful made those comments. Among so many others, he referred to himself. Um, gosh, I mean, this guy. mm, this if you missed this story, despite a recent history of anti-transgender rhetoric, Robinson said he enjoyed watching transgender pornography. This is what he wrote on his site. In a review of his archived messages, CNN took him to task. They're the ones who first uncovered this. He referred to himself as a perv as well. Now he denies making them, but they were made under a username that was uh, that folks and CNN was able to identify as Robinson himself. They matched a litany of biographical details and shared and a shared email address between the person who made these posts and Robinson. Many of his comments were um, very lewd in nature. They were made between 2008 and 2012. It was on the pornographic site Nude Africa. The comments were made under the username Mini Soldier or it's SOLDR. Soldar, Mini Soldar. And the thing about it, it's a moniker that he has used frequently online. He listed his full name on his profile for Nude Africa as well, and an email address he used on numerous websites across the internet for decades. Now, we can only talk about a small portion, like CNN did, of his comments because they're very graphic. Many of his comments on Nude Africa is totally in contrast to his public stances on issues such as abortion and transgender rights. Publicly, Robinson has fiercely argued that people should use bathrooms only that correspond to the gender they were assigned at birth. He also said transgender women should be arrested for using women's restrooms. He said, if you're a man on Friday night and all of a sudden Saturday you feel like a woman and you want to go in the women's bathroom in the mall, you'll be arrested or whatever we got to do to you. This is what he said earlier this year. He says, we're going to protect our women. However, under the username Mini Soldar on Nude Africa, Robinson graphically described his own sexual arousal as an adult from the memory of secretly, quote, peeping on women in public gym showers as a 14-year-old. He recounted the story as a memory he said he still fantasizes about. He says, I came to a spot that was a dead end, but had two big vent covers over it. Just so happened it overlooked the showers. I sat there for about an hour and watched as several girls came in and showered. But there were some very graphic sexual details that went with that story that, uh, again, not going to say exactly what they were. But he kept saying that how he kept going back, peeping and doing other stuff. He got a ladder so he can get a better view. Now, recall what we just said, what his views in this year were about transgenders and transgenders as far as intimacy. On the site, he says he has an affinity for watching transgender pornography. He says, I like watching, in his words, tranny on girl porn. That is hot. It takes the man out while leaving the man in, he says. And yeah, he says, I'm a perv too. This guy, I mean, it's so much here um, that he's running, calling it tabloid trash. No, dude, you're trash. His race and the opponent is Josh Stein, a Democrat who currently serves as the state's attorney general. Robinson has advocated for a complete abortion ban without exceptions. Um, and then he expresses some regret in 2022 for paying for his now wife to have an abortion in the 1980s. Um, right now, he's saying he supports a so-called heartbeat bill that would ban abortion when a heartbeat is detected, approximately 6 weeks, with exceptions for rape, incest, and health of the mother. But on Nude Africa in December 2010, Robinson said he did not care about a celebrity having an abortion. He says, I don't care. I just want to see the sex tape. In another thread, some commenters considered whether to believe the story of a woman who said she was sexually assaulted by her taxi driver while intoxicated. And in response, Robinson wrote, and the moral of this story is don't F a white B. That's what he said about that situation. He also, this is a guy who called Martin Luther King an effing commie bastard. He says he wants Martin Luther King's memorial to be removed off the National Mall. This is a guy who recently said that. And then uh he says, I'm not in the KKK. They don't let blacks join. He says, but if I was in the KKK, I would have called him Martin Lucifer Coon. Of what? This guy. He also he also said that he wishes slavery would return. This is he says, I wish slavery would return. He says, because this is what he says, I will own a few myself. Yeah. This is your guy who's running for governor in North Carolina. He is he is uh Tim Scott and Byron Allen on steroids. And in fact, Donald Trump called this guy Martin Luther King on steroids. Unbelievable. They talk about October surprises. We're in September. Mm-mm-mm. This guy. Wow. He said slavery is not bad. Some people need to be slaves. This is his direct quote. Slavery is not bad. Some people need to be slaves. I wish they would bring it back. I would certainly buy a few. Then he says of Obama, he says, I'd take Hitler over any of that. Talking about Obama. He called Martin Luther King worse than a maggot. Huckster. This is a guy. I mean, somebody's gotten into his. Ooh, yeah. Mike V says he wants to be the Project 2025 Overlord. And Oren G says Mark Robinson, aka, yep. He told Clarence Thomas and Herschel Walker to hold my beer. Mm-mm. Wow. I mean, go overboard doing, trying to please Donald Trump. That is just really wow. How do some people sleep at night? Um, but that is Mark Robinson. The NAACP is urgently calling on Governor Mike Parson of Missouri to stop the execution of Marcellus Williams, a black man who's been on death row for years, maintaining his innocence. In an open letter, NAACP President Derek Johnson and Missouri State Conference President Nimrod Chappell Jr. Warned that executing Williams would be a horrible miscarriage of justice and a reflection of Missouri's troubling racist past. In the letter, they write, taking the life of Marcellus Williams would be an unequivocal statement that when a white woman is killed, a black man must die, and any black man will do. Williams is 55 years old. He was convicted of the 1998 murder of Felicia Gale, who was a former newspaper reporter. A statement from the St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office included in Johnson's letter indicates that no physical evidence links Williams to this stabbing death that happened, as we said, in 1998. They said executing Williams would perpetrate a history of racial injustice in the use of the death penalty in Missouri and elsewhere. The NAACP is opposed to the death penalty, and Williams is scheduled to be executed in just 4 days from now. His lawyer said there is more to the story and are pushing the U.S. Supreme Court to step in, arguing that Williams's rights were violated throughout his legal battle. Just as recently as 2017, the former governor, Eric Greshams, actually paused Williams's execution and created a special board to take a deeper look at the case. The board spent 6 years investigating whether clemency should be granted. But when Governor Mike Parson took over, he disbanded the board and reinstated Williams's execution. His lawyers say this violated his due process rights since the board never got to finish his work. They say the governor's actions have violated Williams's constitutional rights and created an exceptionally urgent need for the court's attention. And then they said there are other red flags too. Earlier this year, St. Louis County Prosecutor Wesley Bell had raised concerns about mistakes made during Williams's original trial, including the removal of a potential black juror because of his race. They said these would be key issues for the Board of Inquiry's consideration in whether to recommend clemency instead of execution. If the governor had not wrongly dissolved the board, the documents say, despite these issues, though, the judge said, no, we're going to move on with this execution. U.S. Rep. Cori Bush also weighed in, sending a letter to Governor Parson urging him to spare Williams' life. Cori Bush said, we are urging you to immediately commute Mr. Williams' sentence and halt his execution. She stressed that executing Williams would be a grave injustice and will leave a lasting scar, especially as his defense continues to fight for his innocence. This is a case, too, where there is lack of any physical evidence, any DNA evidence. In fact, DNA evidence did not match Williams. The bloodthirstiness that they do have, and obviously, for the most part, for black individuals, is incredible. Why would you put somebody to death when they from day one, minute one, have maintained their innocence? There's no evidence. There's no. He was convicted somehow without any evidence at all, according to the NAACP. And then you had a board investigates this for 6 years, and even the attorney, the prosecuting attorney is like, "Wait a minute now. We got some problems here." It's not all. It's not the only death row case we're talking about this morning. Just days before Freddie Owens is set to die. In fact, Freddie Owens is set to die tonight by lethal injection in South Carolina. And the friend whose testimony helped send him to the death row is now saying he lied to save himself from the death chamber. So his friend is admitting to the murder here. 6 p.m. this evening, Owens is set to die in a Columbia prison for killing a Greenville convenience store clerk in 1997. But Owens' lawyers on Wednesday filed a sworn statement from his co-defendant, Stephen Golden, to try to stop South Carolina from carrying out its first execution in more than a decade. The state Supreme Court has asked prosecutors and defense to finish their written arguments by last night. As of right now, not sure if they in fact met that deadline. I would imagine so. Prosecutors have previously noted that several other witnesses testified that Owens told them he pulled the trigger. The state Supreme Court refused to stop Owens' execution last week after Golden made his sworn statement. Golden said he had a secret deal with prosecutors that he never told the jury about. And so the other day, he signed another sworn statement saying Owens wasn't even at the store when Irene Graves was killed during a robbery. Instead, he said he blamed Owens because he was high on cocaine and police put pressure on him by claiming they already knew the two were together and that Owens was talking. Again, it's another lesson of you have a right to remain silent. Black folks, you got to use that right immediately. You have to use that right. Golden maintains that he says, I thought the real shooter or his associates might kill me if I named him to police. I am still afraid of that. But Freddie was not there. Freddie Owens was not there. Golden testified at Owens' trial, saying prosecutors promised to consider his testimony in his favor, but he still faced the death penalty or life in prison. He was eventually sentenced to 28 years in prison after pleading guilty to a lesser charge of voluntary manslaughter. He says, I'm coming forward now because I know Freddie's execution date is September 20th, today. And I don't want Freddie to be executed for something he didn't do. He says, this has weighed heavily on my mind, and I want to have a clear conscience. Prosecutors have said that Golden wasn't the only evidence linking Owens to the crime, since other friends testified that they, along with Owens, had planned to rob the store. Those friends said Owens bragged to them about killing Graves. Owens' girlfriend also testified that he confessed to the killing. The thing is, though, when there's some sort of doubt, shouldn't it be looked into, though, at the very least? There's been a petition to a group called Carolinians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty, signed had got more than 10,000 signatures and presented it to Governor Henry McMaster's office, asking him to reduce Owens' sentence to life in prison. So there is this strong push. Whether it's too late, I guess we'll find out later today. Cheryl Brown says, this is what Trump wants. He wants to come back, and he says he wants us to go back 300 years. Mike V says, he's reminded of an incident in Boston with a white man by the name of Charles Stewart, who killed his pregnant wife and blamed it on a black man. His name was Bennett, and I ain't in it. Yeah, I remember that case, Mike. Yeah, and David is absolutely right. Actual innocence has a hard way to go on appeal. Um, It really does. And when they do find you to have been falsely imprisoned or falsely convicted, you're still at their mercy. It's if they decide to let you out. That's how you talk about criminal justice reform. It has to include this as well. Yeah, there's that case. There is that case. Wow. In health news, folks, I should say, Americans, despite spending the most on healthcare, are the sickest and die the youngest compared with 9 other high-income nations, according to a brand new report released last night by the independent research group, the Commonwealth Fund. They found that the United States has the worst performing healthcare system overall, despite spending the most of any nation in the study. They use data from the World Health Organization and more since the onset of the pandemic in 2020. And they looked at key health measures, including health equity, and we know what that's like: access to care, care process, administrative efficiency, and health outcomes. And so the country's overall scores. So number one was Australia. With all that goes on in like Australia with the snakes and the oversized spiders and tarantulas and all. I don't get it. It seems like more people would be dying over there, but they're number one. Netherlands, followed by the Netherlands, United Kingdom, New Zealand, France, Sweden, Canada, Switzerland, Germany, and the United States. So imagine if we didn't have Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. Boy, we'd be in trouble, wouldn't we? The Justice Department announced that it has opened a civil pattern or practice investigation into Rankin County, Mississippi, and the Rankin County Sheriff's Department. Rankin is the state's fourth most populous county. They have a population of about 160,000 and is located about 30 minutes east of the state capital, Jackson. The investigation seeks to determine whether the department engages in patterns or practices that violate the Constitution and federal law. According to Kristen Clark, the investigation will evaluate all types of force used by the officers, including deadly force. It's also going to assess whether the police department engages in unlawful stops, searches, and arrests in violation of the Fourth Amendment, and whether they conduct discriminatory policing in violation of the 14th Amendment, Title 6, and Safe Street acts. And this all goes back to the Goon Squad. Attorney General Merrick Garland says those officers have since been convicted and sentenced, but we are launching this civil pattern or practice investigation to examine serious allegations that the Rankin County Sheriff's Department systematically violates people's constitutional rights through excessive use of force, unlawful stops, searches and arrests, and discriminatory policing. He says that it includes the Rankin County deputies have overused their tasers, enter people's homes unlawfully, use racial slurs, and deploy dangerous, cruel tactics to assault people in their custody. Merrick Garland says we are committed to working with local officials to conduct a comprehensive investigation. Davis says Rankin has a notorious record of violating the rights of its Black citizens. Yeah, Mississippi is just one tough state. It is for Black folk. It is just one tough. Uh, wow. Power 96 says Mississippi is still burning. The sheriff is the leader of the Goon Squad, and the state's AG doesn't prosecute dirty cops. It's just hard. It's still where Brett Favre in that situation with the welfare fund. Nothing has come of that at all. Nothing at all has come of that. And that definitely should uh it should be of concern among so many other things in Mississippi. I mean, we had the mayor of Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, on last year, right? And we even had Benny Thompson, the congressman from Mississippi, on talking about how basically the state was taking over Jackson, even though the city was being run very well, and them establishing two separate justice systems like they were back in Jim Crow, one for white folks and one for black folks. Mississippi's a tough town. We have two uh, absolutely fabulous newspapers there, the Mississippi Link and the Jackson Advocate, um, both in Jackson, that do such a great job of staying on top of things. It's a lot to stay on top of in Mississippi. A whole lot. So I commend the Mississippi Link and the Jackson Advocate. Got to be a tough job. Stevie Wonder's getting involved in politics in his way. The legendary Motown superstar has announced that he's bringing a message of joy over anger this fall with his Sing Your Song as We Fix Our Nation's Broken Heart tour. What a title! What a title. The 10-show run begins on October 8th in Pittsburgh and concludes on October 30th in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The tour arrives really at a crucial junction in American politics, and Stevie says he's seeking to inspire unity and healing. The 25-time Grammy Award winner will offer free tickets to individuals working tirelessly in their communities to mend what he calls our nation's broken heart. The gesture aligns with Stevie's long-standing commitment to social justice and humanitarian causes. In his recent release, Can We Fix Our Nation's Broken Heart? Stevie sings about the country's current challenges, asking, quote, can we fix our nation's broken heart? That song reflects the nation's mood, he says, with lyrics like children marching on the boulevard, tears are streaming down their face. Tickets for the tour go on sale today at noon and it's available through StevieWonderLive.com. The Wonder Productions led tour, which AEG presents, is promoting in collaboration with Free Lunch. It will visit cities such as New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Greensboro, Atlanta, Detroit, Milwaukee, and Minneapolis. And we know Stevie's impact on music and culture remains unquestionably profound. He was 12 years old when he did Fingertips Part 2. 12 years old. And it reached #1 on the Billboard charts. And we all know that, you could pick a Stevie Wonder album, but Songs in the Key of Life for many is the biggie. And in fact, Songs in the Key of Life is preserved in the National Recording Registry of the Library of Congress for its cultural, historical, and aesthetic significance. He had 49 over his career, 49 49 top 40 singles and 32 #1 hits. It's interesting, right? I mean, what he's gotten the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the Kennedy Center Honors, and the UN Messenger of Peace designation to go along with all his Grammys and other awards. People love Stevie Wonder. Stevie. Steveland. Oh boy. And yeah, you gotta give me more details. The National Whiteout for Frankie Beverly is, I guess it's underway. It's today. Yeah, yeah. We're all white. Stream Maze all day. Use the hashtag whiteout for Frankie as Power 96 brought out a couple of days ago, man, we saw what happened in New Orleans, right? They really came out for Frankie. But it is National Whiteout for Frankie today, September 20th. So we're all white is what they are urging you to do. David says Song in the Key of Life is the album of all time. But Frankie Beverly, wow, it was just such a surprise when he died a week or so ago. Pound 96 says, yeah, we did. New Orleans did turn out, and he says his feet still hurt. Such a loss. Frankie Beverly, I mean, just retired from performing. But really, really, really sad when we lose these icons. And it's like, what was he, 77 years old, I believe it was? We're not talking about an old man, right? Like Tito Jackson the other day, another surprise, 70 years old, iconic Jackson 5 member, um, died of a heart attack, apparently. Driving, the reports say he was driving one. He likes these classic cars. And he was driving from Tulsa, Oklahoma, or to Tulsa, either to or from Tulsa to New Mexico, to or from. Those were the two places. But in one of his classic cars, and one of the things I understand, at least some folks have said he actually pulled over. He wasn't feeling well, pulled over on the side of the road, and unfortunately, that's where he had a heart attack. No word yet on a funeral for Tito. Greer and I was talking to someone close to that situation yesterday, and right now is no word yet. We specifically asked about funeral plans. I understand that Jermaine Jackson is living in Dubai and is headed has headed back to California for funeral plans for his brother. So again, all of these celebrities, icons dying within the same time period. It's a lot to take, folks. It's a lot to take. But it's Friday. It's Friday. And it's Frankie Beverly Day. So enjoy, and everybody have a safe weekend. And we'll be back next week with Let It Be Known. Thanks for watching.
Like the children need to play, they laugh and sing from day to day. I need you. I found out about you. I can't